Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively in Carroll County. We are at Liberatores. We're in the plaza here in Eldersburg. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with our friends at Window Nation and Goodwill, where I'm cleaning out my closets. We're learning about beer. We're talking about Restaurant Week as well. Restaurant Week begins September 16th through the 25th in all over the state at hundreds of different places. We're going to be at Rock Salt Grill on Friday with Marshall Weston talking about that, as well as with John Maroon a little later on. Dante's going to join us. I'm hopefully going to get, I think he has meatballs here, so I'll do that. So. Mike McKelvin is here. He is from 1623 Brewing. He has brought me stouts and kolsches and hefeweizens and all sorts of lagers and pilsners and things like that, as well as a story about a little engine that could, right? You're not even 5 years into this. It's crazy, right?
No, we literally opened a tap room 3 weeks, February 22nd. And on March 15th, obviously, we were shut down because of COVID. So
that's 2020, so you're not even 3 years into this.
Yeah.
So, like, when the numbers happened and you had to shut down and you're curbsiding, getting your place ready for the next place is probably where you probably were already, as an entrepreneur, saying, we need outdoor seating like everybody else, right?
You know, I don't give myself any credit for this, but after moping for a full week, I brought the whole staff in, and I told them all, I said, I own a construction company that's not being shut down. If anybody needs a job, we'll bring you in. We'll figure out somewhere you can go and work. And then I said,
even when you're not sure construction's going to be constructing.
Exactly.
Right?
We were already shut down completely in Pennsylvania. Some of our work's up there. They were shut down at that point. And so the other thing I said was, I'm convinced that by the first week of June, we're open back up. And so we need to come up with a plan. I want everybody's best ideas.
8-week plan, 10-week plan.
I want everybody's best ideas.
You don't mind if I have a beer while we do
Please.
this? Yeah, okay.
I wanted everybody's best ideas for indoor, outdoor. So we came up with an indoor and outdoor plan. We literally, during that time, we split the place up 50% seating. We didn't know 50% was going to be a number. We just made a guess. And I'll give my staff a lot of the credit. It was literally me just saying, let's come up with a plan.
Well, you have one thing a lot of people didn't have, especially in the city. It's space.
Yep. And when I said that, the amount of great ideas I got from people inside of our own building, and then we went to work. We set up the outside, not yet available, weren't allowed to do it yet. We set up 50%.
Well, that's tasty.
Thank you.
That's got a little sweetness to it.
So we like to call that a year-round stout. It's not. You know.
It's milky.
I like to think.
You don't call it a milk stout. Why not?
Because it's really not. But it does have that feel of a nice mouth feel. It's got good chocolate. It's got good roastiness, good coffee, and you don't have to be in the middle of winter.
People piss on stouts, and I'm like, you don't like milkshakes? Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, everybody should like it. This should be. You're talking about crab cakes bringing the right and the left and the east and the west and the black and the white and the eastern shore and the white all together. Everybody should be able to agree on a stout.
I think so.
It's benign.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think it should be on the same level as lagers and all the ales, obviously. But it should be an everyday beer for people. It should be something you have in your refrigerator for friends that come over. Because I have plenty that come over and want dark beers, and my fridge doesn't always have dark beers.
Were you a dark beer guy when you were 21 from Essex? Because I would think the guys that went to Chesapeake, anybody that would have brought Beck's Dark over.
So I'll tell you, this is a true story, and I'm not condoning this at all. So obviously, growing up in Essex.
I'm from Dundalk, dude. I mean, I did not wait till my 21st birthday that night, right?
Our big deal for us was Molson Golden, and that
was a premium. You were eating right if you were right.
We all had our first jobs. Mine was at the MP in Delaney Valley, and we'd pull our money together and we'd get a case of Molson Golden. Go forward 10 years. I'm married. I'm now out here in Carroll County, and my gateway dark beer was J.W. Dundee's Honey Brown.
Oh, it's me too. I would say I enjoyed that.
And then right after that, I went straight to, and I think here's a beer that gets knocked around a little too much. It's a national quality beer. I went straight to Sam Adams from there. Phenomenal beer.
Yeah, I never had a Sam Adams. I did cherry wheat.
Right.
I would drink that, but I'm not summer shandy. I'm not ale-y. I'm not. It was a little hoppier for me.
The original Boston Lager I found to be a phenomenal beer, as well as Yuengling. And so those were, between JW and Sam and Yuengling, those were my gateways. And in 1995, I started homebrewing. And that's kind of how.
Now, did you ever go down to Hugh Sisson's place and eat his delicious wings down there?
Never did. I know I'm sorry I missed out on that. And I remember, there were stories of how great it was to go in there and do exactly that. And I've never done it.
Well, I never understood it, right? Like even as. Look, man, I mean, I had 2 alcoholic parents. There was a lot of beer flowing in Dundalk in the 70s. Most of it, Schaefer Weekender, Natty Boh, kegger kind of beer, not beer you're drinking for craft, right? And when the craft thing happened, I think I said this to you. I mean, I wondered where it would go. And I guess as a 53-year-old guy doing this crazy brew, I'm not doing this for kicks. I love it.
Right.
I'm not saying like there's something in every place that I've really liked a lot and was completely unique to that place or that season that if I go back 6 months from now, the food will taste different, right? The beer will be different.
Yeah, the beer should be different all the time. You're going to get that stout at our place every day of the year. So our home Pilsner Hef IPA, which is a West Coast version, hoppy, you wouldn't like, and that stout are on tap in stores.
And obviously, this can of beer is available in lots of places. I drove past this beer a lot last week and this week, right?
You can find that in every county in the city of Maryland and 34 counties in Pennsylvania.
Give me the Vince Bagli story because I met Mike McKelvin from 1623 out here in Eldersburg. Met you in Owings Mills a couple months ago. You only had IPAs. And, I got to say this. You weren't offended that I wasn't even going to – I'm just not going to like it. I don't want to give you bitter beer face and I meet you, right? And you're like, no, come on out. And I said, well, I am going to come out. I'm going to do it with Dante. He's going to come in here and take over the conversation any moment. I hope he brings meatballs. Bring meatballs, Dante. And I've known Dante for a long, long time. And Dante would always say to me, I'm not a sports bar. I'm the sports guy. I'm not a sports bar. So I'm going to give him a hard time about that. But you had a sports thing and a Vince Bagli thing that gave me an aha moment. I was invited out here in the middle of the plague, if I'm not mistaken, on a winter night, or was it a summer night? I don't remember.
No, it was in the winter. He passed in late in 2020, and it was early 21 that we pulled this together.
Okay, so you did an event, and I got invited, and I wanted to come. And I can look at my calendar. Something got in the way. It might have just been the plague, right? Or, hey, I can't go out to Eldersburg tonight. Give everybody your background because you've got to. I'm setting up cameras in here and telling you. You know a little bit about how this is all done.
I've been behind the camera, in front of the camera. I've sold the stuff. So in 1988, I got hired by WBAL-TV right out of college. The man who hired me was Vince Bagli. I was assistant sports producer, did weekends, did nights.
Did you work with Kistner and his guys?
Worked with Bill Kistner. God love him. He's passed
See
now.
this. To social, to Billy Kistner, huh?
I love the man.
I ran wild with him at the Arlington All-Star Game 1995. It's true.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Bill Kistner and I ran wild all over Baltimore late in the 80s, and we had a good time. Mike Gathigan.
Oh, the best, right?
And we were all close right up till the day Bill passed. Mike and I still talk. Keith Mills.
Well, I interned at 2. Did you know this?
Yeah, so Keith and Scott are good friends of yours.
I interned at 2 in 1992 when I was already on the radio. It was the first year I was on the radio. I needed 3 credits. And Chloe was my great intern here this year. I was that intern wearing my Houston Oilers jacket, running and getting Little Caesars, pizza, cheeser, pizza for Scott and Keith, and running Bullets tape for Mike Gathigan, Jim Hawes, who just lost his mom. So yeah, I mean, that community of – and there wasn't even a 45 then, or barely there was a 45.
Yeah, they didn't have a news yet.
Right. I mean, there was Ernie Boston reporting 800 times per week.
Yeah, they were still doing Three Stooges in the morning. So, I mean, it's
as long as they did Gary Michael Capetta from 4 to 5 every Saturday afternoon. But for you were in the television world. I joked with you about Pinbusters, but, you have a whole background of wanting to be in sports and in production and in television.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to be a sports guy. I wanted to be you. I wanted to be on TV. Jerry Sandusky, when he came to Baltimore, I was his first producer. It was something that was really important to me. And back then, and you can remember this, is that everybody they wanted to ship you off to Harrisburg or Salisbury, and I didn't want to do it. I was like,
Hagerstown. Don't forget Hagerstown.
Yeah, Hagerstown. They would all go there, and I'm like, no, I'm learning right here. Remember, if you remember Bob West. Bob West he left Baltimore. He had my job. I took his job. He goes to Salisbury, never to be seen again. And so it was one of those.
Well, I
things.
have friends, all over the country, right? Jacksonville, Houston.
Right.
People leave. Omar Jimenez people that leave.
He's now on the desk at CNN.
Right. These people that leave and go do, Max Morgan went to Arkansas and wound up knowing Bill Clinton and, going through all that. So the sports side of this that I've pivoted to doing Baltimore Positive, God bless anybody that can do it for 50 years. I've done it for 31 years. And sports then and sports production and the way TV was done, it's just different era. I was blessed to have been there during some of the glory era,
Yeah, absolutely. So back then, you talk about running tapes, that's exactly what we did. And
big tapes, dude.
Big 3/4-inch tape, and we're begging TV stations. When the Orioles were playing Kansas City, they weren't necessarily on TV, so we weren't recording.
You had to call Channel 7 out in Kansas City and try to get tape.
Try to get it up on a satellite link from CBS.
Now look, this window's going to be here at 10:12. Okay,
Yep.
You need to roll tape on this.
Yep.
I can hear Gathigan yelling at me right now. Am I doing that well?
Yeah, it's perfect. That's exactly what we did, and so all
Jim
those
was much more
nuances.
kinesthetic. Halsey was more like, come on, dude. You know what you're doing here. Gathigan was much more hands-on. Keith was all frenetic.
Back then,
Garceau was putting his makeup on with Mary Beth.
It was against TV rules. It was against union rules back then. But sometimes we were the CBS affiliate back then. Now BAL's at NBC. Well, sometimes we were the only ones who could get the highlight because it was on the CBS affiliate,
right? Okay.
In another market. So if you weren't, we're the only ones.
Terps
are
playing in Winston-Salem. You might be the only one with highlights.
So
literally,
what you would see that night, because we would all go meet at Alonzo's, trade tapes, and then head back.
Get a burger.
You'd see the exact same highlights on all three of us because that's all the three highlights we could get.
So you were drinking Molson Golden?
That's right. Well, back then, probably Bud Light back then.
Molson Golden is what Mike Messina and I drank at Hooters every night after games in 1992, 93, 94, 95. Like that was the beer we drank then.
My only touch of greatness in that time, and I love telling these stories to my friends because they love to laugh at me, but so Bob Malaki's first night in Baltimore, he comes wandering into Christopher's by himself. And it's me and Chris Thomas sitting at the bar, and Chris looks at me and goes,
Whoa. You just said Chris Thomas.
Yep.
You knew Chris Thomas?
Yeah, I knew Chris Thomas.
I'll keep going with the story. We're going to go back to Chris Thomas.
It's only Chris Thomas and I sitting at the bar. He goes, Mike, we're going to have to take care of him. And so I walk over, introduce myself, introduce him to Chris, and we sit at the bar, and we stay right till it closes. And that's how
I bet that led you to Pete Harnish and Dave Johnson and Greg Olson.
But you want to know
McDonald?
You know what that led me to? It led me to playing basketball on Monday nights at Bryn Mawr with Billy and Cal and
getting crushed.
Tim Kirkjian and Pete Harnish. Harnish and Kirkjian would go at each other like two kids in a school. I never realized.
And Tim's this big, and Harnish was 6'1",
and
6'2".
Tim didn't back down from anybody. One of the greatest basketball players to this day I've ever seen.
And a Hall of Famer.
And a baseball Hall of Famer.
Well, look, we're going to talk some beer here, but you just said something that and I'll bring Dante in a minute, too, because there's a Dundalk thing. I will take a break. We're at Eldersburg. We're at Liberatores, 1623 Brewing, putting this on. The Maryland Lottery, of course, and Goodwill, and Window Nation, and, of course, the Restaurant Association. We're talking about Restaurant Week, which is important next month. Save a couple nights between the 16th and the 25th. Ravens will be 1-0 and then 2-0, so there'll be a lot to celebrate during those couple of weeks. But Chris Thomas, so Don Moeller is my kemosabe here and doing radio with me in Baltimore Positive. We do the recon together, and people wonder where the genesis of all that. How'd you know the county executive? Well, we've been sitting at Ravens games until now for 27 years together. We've gone to games together. Don was my high school guidance counselor. And on the first day of high school, I filled out my little blue form and I circled journalism. When I left Holabird in 1982, I was leaving Holabird. They said, what do you want to be? I wanted to be Richie Cunningham. I wanted to be a journalist. So I circled journalism. And when I got my marching orders from the county, they put me in some art class or something I didn't want to do. And I'm like, no. My parents took me in the car, my brother's Malibu, 76 Malibu. We go down Delville Avenue. We go in to Dundalk High School in August 20-something. School's not open yet. Like, we're trying to get me into this journalism class because I needed to be a journalist, as you felt in 1988 when you went to work for Vince, right? So I walked into the school that day, and Don Moeller put his arm around me, and he said, young man, we're going to get you into that. I can tell how important this is to you and your family. I'll get you into this class. And he would always tell me, when he would see me in the classroom in 10th grade, he'd say, you're going to be the next Chris Thomas. You're going to be the next Chris Thomas. So that's what Don Moeller did for me 40 years ago this week.
Yep.
How about that? 40 years ago this week, he told me I was going to be the next Chris Thomas. And I'll never forget those that Chris was always really nice to me, right?
Yep.
Chris talked wrestling with me. Chris, I saw at the racetrack. I saw Chris sober sometimes. I saw Chris inebriated at other points. But my favorite Chris stories are somewhere between iced tea and a Long Island iced tea at about 12:30, 1 o'clock at PJ Crickett's.
Yep.
Every Tuesday or Wednesday for the skipjacks. It was
Yeah,
skipjacks,
Wednesday,
right?
yep.
So this is Gene Ubriaco, and then later on, I guess Trotz did it maybe at PJ Crickett's later on, but I think specifically of Gene. And Gene and I went out and had breakfast together in Catonsville a couple weeks ago. I love Gene Ubriaco, my favorite people in the world. And so I started talking about these people of that era, Charlie Ekman, all those kind of people, Kistner, these people that we've lost. But Chris would hold court at those luncheons, and he was the life of the party.
Yep.
And I was 15, 16 years old with my notebook covering for the News American or the Evening Sun, and I got exposed to Chris. And all of everything I do that's wacky here is because it's a tribute to Chris.
Oh.
Like, I wanted to be Chris Thomas. I literally wanted to be Chris Thomas.
Chris, I think Chris was well before his time in the aspect of
Entertaining.
It wasn't, you remember, you walk into the press box at Memorial Stadium, it was like going to church. And, don't talk out, don't talk too loud, nobody applauses, anything like that.
Well, that was the crusty old sports writers.
And
that was Lou Hatter.
and Chris Thomas was the modern day Berman, Stuart Scott, Dan Patrick. He was before that.
He was the real deal.
Real deal, and not all this reverence. All these pro athletes, they actually gravitated to him because he was
a pro.
He would talk to them, and he would have fun with them. Where everybody else,
and he loved sports.
Everybody
he loved
else,
the horses.
I will pull Vince out of this, but the other people were all about the stats and the blah 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 blah, and as we all said, the talking heads. He brought humor to it.
He brought community to it. He understood community with the Bob Irsay bit with the dummy, and that dummy became my dummy. That dummy now lives above the bar at Nacho Mama's. That's the original dummy.
I never got in trouble for a Bob Irsay bit. You know what? I got in trouble once. I got called in to the news director's office, and I actually thought I was getting fired because we replayed over and over again a bunny rabbit being killed at the Indianapolis 500. Getting sucked.
I remember this bit.
Sucked under the car.
I remember this bit.
It blows out that big exhaust that those Indy cars had. And when we came out of the video, Chris had a big stuffed rabbit with all kinds of bandages all over it and said, the bunny survived.
That he got at the carnival.
Yeah, the bunny survived. Nobody has to worry. And this bunny... And
do you have any old... You have to have some old Chris Thomas, right?
Well, it's funny you say that.
Does it live on YouTube? Maybe out of Tampa, because Chris made a life in Tampa.
Oh, Tampa was a good place for him. That's exactly, between the horse racing and the growing sports market. It was the perfect place for him in those early 90s. And then
they took Kenny down there.
Obviously, he passed away.
I had Coops on a couple
after.
months ago,
Did
too.
You really?
Yeah, I mean, we could go at it forever. Mike McKelvin's here, 1623. We are at Liberatories. It's the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. I hope it's a meatball tour today. I mean, I think I know people, and Dante and some folks here. Before I invite Dante in, we want to take a break. Just Vince. Give me the story on Vince, because I was up at your beautiful place, and invite everybody out here to Carroll County. Please come on out, have a beer, have a crab cake, and enjoy what's been built out here, because it's been a while. I'm going to tell my original Eldersburg story. It's going to involve a girl from the 80s. But I saw the Dino and what you were doing. Go back to that, because you're our mutual love of Vince. Vince was always so kind to me. He was such a good man.
I've told everyone I've never respected or loved another man more than my father. Vince is number two. Vince's actual love for people was real. When he asked you how you are, he really wanted to know. Only man I've ever met like that, where his honest and deep feelings for the people around him were greater than, and it's somewhat of a detriment as some of his close family know. It kind of tore his family apart a little bit. He was so interested in Nestor. He was so interested in Jim Palmer. He was so interested in the growth of Mike McKelvin. Jim Palmer's going to get his call out there at the Orchard Inn. Yeah, I think so. Right there.
I know Orchard, sure.
And so he's going
Hirsch's Orchard Inn.
He's going to get
It's now Moe's. They have nice crab cake.
They're going to get. He's going to get his call that night. Jim calls Vince and says, "I want you to be there." And on the phone, Vince Bagli tells Jim Palmer, "I need Mike to be there with me." And we go off, and I get to be there for Jim Palmer's Hall of Fame
phone call.
That he thought so much of everyone else around him. He always wanted to make sure everyone else around him was in a good place. And so 1987, I walk into that office, and I'm doing an interview to get through some last classes at Western Maryland. We finish the interview, and he goes, "Mike, you're going to come work for me. When can you start?" And
wow.
I said,
hair on the back of your neck stands up,
I
right?
said, I go, "I know this is a long way off, but I got to get through at least the next semester." He goes, "You make sure January next year you give me a call."
So with Vince, and I think I told you this with tears in my eyes that night at the Marriott, because I'm about to tell it to you again. I'm going to try to stay straight on it. I grew up watching Vince, right? So Vince and Chris were like, no offense to Channel 13 or Klaus Wagner or Randy Blair or Andrea Kirby before that, who I watched all of them, because we only had 3
John
channels.
Saunders.
There was no MTV. There was no nothing. I mean, this is all we had, right? So I'm talking about in the 70s when I was a kid. I was born in 68. So Jack Dawson, I rarely watched Channel 2. No offense to Bill Burton with the red fish and the blue fish, but I didn't know. I mean, obviously I knew about that, right? But Channel 11's what we watch. We watch Rudy Miller. I always tell her that. I always tell her the first crush I ever had wasn't Farrah Fawcett, it was Rudy Miller. That always makes her blush. And just as a kid, Pinbusters, I know you and I have a Royal Parker thing or whatever.
Yep.
But Vince doing sports and me loving sports and me being an Aparicio and me being in the 70s and watching the news and being a news hound and wanting to work at the newspaper and reading newspapers. Man, when I was at the News American, I was 15 years old, 1984-85, and they said, "Hey, kid, clean those folder cabinets out." And I went through and saw that Vince Bagli had bylines at the News American. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In 1984, I thought he came out from the dust and did Colts games and Orioles games. I didn't know, and he had a whole background in sports writing. And I remember cornering him in that press box at Memorial Stadium, and he spent time with me, had a crab cake with me, literally, that the 2 ladies always cooked with the French fries and the beer, and they had a tap there and all that. But hearing him say my name, now that's weird, right? Because your name's Mike, but Nestor, so I could. He would always say my name all of my career. I would walk in, he would always be sitting with Pete Kurtzel or Scott Garceau or just sitting with someone at the table. And I would always walk by to get a water, and I'd be in my gear because I'm going to my seats in the Ravens box. "Hey, Nestor, how you doing? How's your wife?" That's not a bad Vince. That was all right.
Pretty good.
That's decent,
That's
right?
pretty good.
So I'm trying to channel him, but he always said my name, and I never got over it. That'd be like the president saying your name or hearing a voice say your name. It's like Vince said my name. My God,
he remembered people. He was iconic in the mastery of introduced one time and would remember it. Wasn't just I kind of remember the face. He remembered the name. People mattered, and it was in his entire persona. People mattered to him.
Dude, you're brewing this beer, and I can drink social to Batman in Ocean City over the weekend, or to Chris Thomas and the late, great Vince Bagli. So you did a Dino beer. Just give that story real quick.
We did an Italian Pilsner with a nice hand-drawn sketch of the Dean with the Italian flag all around it, and it was dedicated to him. His entire family was able to come to the brewery. And we had a really special night with some people from the media.
Yeah, Tracy was a star in her own right, right? Working for the bank. And, right,
and BAL at one point.
Sure, yeah.
And we had them all out. We had just a great time. It was really good to see them all again. And we got the band back together.
Let's do that again, man. Let's honor him again, anytime.
I would do it a lot.
I drink to the Dean anytime,
man.
man.
We could bring them. You could do it for them all now. Think about it. You were talking about what meant something to you. Randy Blair's passing hurt.
Oh man, that was a dark night in Baltimore sports history.
That hurt. I mean, I was ready to go in those footsteps. So we have some great people that came out of this marketplace.
Man, television sports, beer. There you go, man. We're out here at Liberatories. Dante's going to join us. We're doing a little community thing out here. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. It's all presented by our friends at the Maryland Lottery, letting ourselves play. I'm going to have the Raven scratch off soon. We're going to be at Rock Salt Grill on Friday in Westminster. Got great guests up there, including Marshall Weston from the Restaurant Association of Maryland, talking about why it's important that places like Liberatories, places all over, all 24 municipalities and counties in the state participate in Restaurant Week. It starts September 16th. Get out, support local restaurants, eat well, and don't forget our friends at Window Nation. I make, because Dante's coming on, I want to look like I'm dealing cards back in the neighborhood. I'm going to put my Window Nation visor on. I got the Furio hair here. I want to be an honorary Liberatore, so we can have a little bit of fun around here. He's going to be joining us for a crab cake and some meatballs. We are in Eldersburg. Really appreciative of 1623 for coming forth with stout and lager and pills and what was that?
IPA and Maybach and
It's easy. It's like a Malbec, but with an I.
There you go.
I love Malbecs. Now I love Maybachs.
There you go.
Which is a honey Kolsch.
Well, we'll let you have it.
Tasted like that to me. I'll tell you that right now, man. But what do I know? I'm just doing 31 crab cakes and 31 breweries. Back for more from Eldersburg. The real entertainment will start once we start speaking Italiano here in Eldersburg with Dante. Back for more on the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking beer, crab cakes, and Baltimore positive. Stay with us.